Today I want to add to and build on my last video, which was about the ABCDE exercise and what to do when you get triggered emotionally and are tempted to blurt something out that you later might regret and wished you hadn't. So the topic for today is about self-compassion, which is not about self-pity. It's really about realizing you're human and that you make mistakes and that you're not perfect, and none of us are. Nobody on the planet has signed up for an easy ride necessarily. Some days we have good days and other days not so good days. Building on this is an epiphany that I had this morning, so I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit more than I usually do in my other videos and use a story about myself and the epiphany that I had this morning as an example, and hopefully that you will find it relatable. Because as we become, all of us, more self-compassionate instead of being so self-critical, we will actually open up new opportunities for ourselves. We will be more resilient and will absolutely be more effective as people and becoming the best versions of ourselves. So it's very painful for me when I've been working with a client and all of a sudden they ghost and I don't hear back from them, even if I've reached out several times and don't know why. I don't think I'm all that different from anybody else. For me, though, this can be a triggering or very painful experience because what my mind starts to do is ruminate. And I start to become self-critical and think it was my fault somehow. I might say to myself, what did you say, Roberta, the last time you spoke to them? Did you offend them? Did you not bring value to the last meeting? Did they think something you said was offensive? My brain will just get caught in a negative feedback loop like that automatically on its own. And I have heard that other colleagues of mine are sometimes affected that way too, but I don't think they ruminate as much as I do, to be honest. So this morning I was really wondering about that. And by what I'm about to say next, I want to give a disclaimer. I'm going to tell you a story about my mother and myself when I was a little girl. My intention is not to shame her, blame her, judge her, or criticize her. It's only to provide information and to use an example, because I'll say, you know, she made a mistake. She wasn't perfect either, just like I'm not myself. But I remembered this morning that maybe I was about 5, I think. My mother had an upset where a friend just fell out of her life, somebody that she was close to. And she said to me that the friend fell out of her life and it was my fault. She said that the friend, I knew that the friend gave me a Christmas present. It was a little travel suitcase, and I think I blurted out something like, "Oh, I already have one of those. I don't need one of these." You know, because that was the truth from a 5-year-old little girl who didn't know any better about social mores or social customs. And that sticks in my mind, although I haven't thought about it for years until this morning, because my mother said it several times. And I'm thinking, as I reflect on it, that, okay, I must have felt guilty. And what my mother said actually was not rational. She does not know why the friend stopped talking to her or pulled out of her life. Not unless she were to ask her, was it because my daughter said she already had a suitcase when you gave her that as a gift? But even though it's irrational, to a 5-year-old little girl's mind, for somebody highly sensitive like I am, I must have absorbed it and maybe felt guilty. And then I internalized that tendency to beat myself up or be self-critical. And then I turned into a perfectionist And it's just like a negative spiral from then on. So knowing what I know about emotional intelligence and resilience, and now self-compassion, that's a negative feedback loop that I no longer wish to get stuck in. So if I use the debate, dispute, dismiss part of the ABCDE exercise, and I exercise self-compassion towards myself, it could sound something like this. Roberta, you did the best you could. It's never your intention to hurt somebody. You don't say things when you're meeting with people in coaching that would intentionally, and with malice, try to hurt them. That would not be what you would do. And even so, sometimes people might get their feelings hurt, or something else might be going on in their lives. Maybe it's something they don't wish to share with you, or they don't feel comfortable sharing with you. So it's not a good idea to blame yourself. That doesn't help move anybody forward. So it's best to let go. So that's what I want to do now, to exercise self-compassion for myself when something like this happens. And by doing so, I will free up my energy to take other proactive steps. Maybe I need to look at my intake forms. Maybe I need to look at the procedures I've set up during my discovery calls. Maybe I have to have more integrity around planning for meetings and coaching sessions, something like that. But you can see how thinking that way will help me move forward and could help you do the same, because I say most of us do suffer from some version of what I told you about today because of how our brains are set up. So I'm hoping that this will give you some ideas about how when you get snagged by something that's emotionally upsetting personally to you, you can use the version of what I told you about today to see things differently and move forward with grace and ease.